Spirituality and Consciousness, and a co-creator of our program Money Consciousness and Spirituality with Declan Scott.
Yes. Hello, Mayuri.
Hi.
I'm Declan Scott, founder of the Spirited Business Network and co-conspirator with Mayuri here on Money Consciousness and Spirituality. So today we're going to just recap and relook at a little bit of what we were endeavouring to create together, and hopefully bring it to another level for our listeners to be able to appreciate and take it to the next step in their own life. So good to be back here again.
Yeah. So how did we get connected?
You've been weaving in and out of our lives for many years, even
Yes.
before I met Jen. So
That's true.
yeah.
Yes.
In fact, it was probably an act of your goodwill around business that set her up in business initially, 20 plus years ago.
That's true.
You gave her your business.
I gave her my business.
What better is that if a tenfold? Is that what you were requesting? A tenfold return?
Tenfold return, yes.
Yeah, and that definitely supported her to have a good life, and before we got together. And then we've sort of met in the spiritual realms on retreats.
Yes, we did.
In our quest to, I guess, to find more of the truth of who we are.
And then you discovered I wrote a book.
Yes, and we're both chartered accountants.
And we're both chartered accountants.
Yeah, so I think it touched a deep yearning for me ever since. One of my earliest memories is sitting in my kitchen at home in Ireland, and I grew up in a very rural part of Ireland, and it was all about survival and equating money with success, and the objects of that were very much evident. You either had money or you didn't, and everybody knew it. So money was a measure. It was amazing when I became an accountant. It was to try and learn how to do business better and to become wealthy, and money was such a big measure for me. It was such a big hold on my life, I would say it actually, I was consumed by it, and I equated money with success, with wealth, with everything. So your book really opened my eyes to
different way of looking at it,
a different approach to
different understanding of what money is
from the inside out.
From the inside out.
Yeah, so I appreciated that and was drawn to work with you.
Yes.
And then the opportunity arose, and
we created the opportunity.
Yeah, and so I'm still hungry, but a lot more, I guess, wise now.
Yes.
That I'm another bit older, and that journey and quest has brought me around the world to be here with you. And yeah, I think a lot of people are perhaps at the same point in their life as well, in looking for perhaps some information, knowledge, wisdom, but you know you've referred to that emptiness, the hole of deficiency that I felt and feel, but it brings me to a more complete or a whole place inside of myself. Right.
But what happened was, as I was being an accountant, and we talked about and on the spiritual path, I started to really see where this deficiency around money and needing more, and the whole, how that was really impacting people's lives. And I wanted to write a book that wanted to bring a different point of view into money. I felt like I knew it intimately because I was dealing with people every day in their money, and I was seeing that they weren't seeing this other part about their spiritual nature, and I thought, this needs to be addressed for people. I knew that a lot of spiritual people had this understanding, but ordinary people, in their lives weren't, and I think we all have the right to have these understandings. And so that's why I wrote the book. So my belief is, my experience is that we are here, we are all unique individuals. We are all a spark of the Creator, and we are all here to live our unique beingness. And it's about being that in the world. It's not about trying to get enough money to survive or to live well. You know, money is not the focus, but a support in the world. But we have been so conditioned by this money system that is based on competition and based on not enough, not having enough, like you were saying, on all these different ways of also separate entity identity, that we are in our own little bubble and we have to take care of ourselves, and there is no unity consciousness, and there is no ongoing flow or support of money, which is true. So we need to change that belief system, you know, because the universe is abundant. We need to change that belief system. But in order to do that, we have to work with what is there. And that was, you know, our conditioning, the belief in lack and limitation and not enoughness, and the poverty mentality, really. So the universe itself is actually abundant, and that is our belief system. So we need to work at that. And one of the things that spurred me for sure is the book The Secret, because it's true that the world is abundant and we can ask. But I just saw so many people being so miserable because they were asking and they weren't getting. But what they weren't recognizing is that they were asking out of their conditioning. They were asking out of those beliefs in lack and limitation, hoping they could transcend that and just get a new car in their driveway or $1 million in their bank account. But it wasn't going to work. And the reason it wasn't going to work is because of the law of attraction. We have to, we attract to ourselves those experiences that we need on planet Earth, Mystery School, to transcend our ego selves and move into the being that we are. So by just doing that without actually having transcended those belief systems, it just simply isn't going to work. The law of attraction is going to bring you those experiences that you need to reflect back what you actually are believing.
So are we, you know, when we look at that point around the universal laws and how we can use them or manipulate them for our own personal gain,
yes,
what you're saying is it essentially will reflect back that which we are trying to cover over.
It will.
Okay.
That's just how it works here. So that's the point of my book, was to start to wake people up.
Yeah.
This is where you're conditioned. This is how you are conditioned. This is all the different areas that conditioning comes from. This is all the things that have made you have these beliefs.
Yes.
You know, including, you know, the patriarchy and this identity of self,
well,
the church, the money system that is based in competition and greed, and using up all the ecology on the planet. Yeah, we've totally ecologized the world,
yes,
and used it up. And the other thing is debt. You know, that our money system is based on debt. When money's created, equal amounts debt is created. And so when the 1% take all the money, everybody else is left holding the debt. So the whole structure of the money system is a problem. There's our conditioning that's a problem. There's the use of using up the ecology for growth. Growth is not actually sustainable.
Continual ongoing. Yes.
Continual ongoing growth has not been sustainable, and we're all waking up to that. To me, climate change is based also on the money system.
Yeah.
The effects of the competition in the money system. So I think it's essentially important for people to wake up to their conditioning and to start to get free. And when they start to get free, then they can start to live in the law of the universe, the universal spiritual law of abundance.
Right, because that was a question I had for you around that. I remember we did the unit on ABCs, the attitudes, beliefs and conditioning.
Right.
And, you know, we often describe it as you live the world you believe in.
Right.
And, you know, it's a very cognitive approach. You know, there's many teachers on the on the circuit right now talking about how to change your beliefs and how to shift your thinking
Right.
and how to think more constructively and elevate your emotions. And,
Right.
is beliefs purely a cognitive response to our upbringing that we're energetically bound by?
No, in fact, these things aren't going to change by just understanding them on a cognitive level. We are energetic beings. And so we need to understand them on an emotional level. We need to understand them on a physical level. And that's what our exercises were really doing, is you have to feel the emotion, feel the impact. Like, what does fear around my survival actually feel like in the body? Where do I learn that? How does it make me think and act? And it's when touching those, when bringing all those three centers into alignment, that we actually transmute those beliefs.
The three centers as in physical?
Physical, emotional, and mental.
Okay.
So the thoughts. So you need all three for transformation to happen, for transmutation to happen. Without that, you're not actually free. And you can say, well, I understand that belief, so I can now say affirmation from I understand that I don't believe that. But it doesn't really work. That's spiritual bypass.
Right, so it's just basically programming your brain to tell you a story that
Tell you a different story,
yeah.
but it doesn't actually change. We actually need to, and we're embodied.
Right.
That's what people don't understand. That the human journey is one of embodiment.
Got to bring it here.
We got to bring it here, in the body, now, in order to get free. Otherwise, we'll just keep attracting.
So that was that unit we did on inquiry.
That was the unit we did on
To
inquiry.
really bring that down into an energetic
Experience.
presence.
Yes.
An experience of presence. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I can really see that this is a practical practice, if
Yes.
you like. This is something to continually work with on a daily basis. Not, I've learned that off, I'm an expert now, and I'm going to regurgitate it. That's what our brain and our mental approach to life wants to know. I want the answer.
Wants an answer, and it wants it in the immediate, and it thinks the transformation will just happen overnight. It doesn't.
Yeah, and it should hit my account tomorrow.
And it should hit your account tomorrow. No, this
Yeah.
is a practice that takes a while.
Our journey with, we'll call it abundance,
Yeah.
but money is a measure of that. Our journey in some ways is predestined, would you say, in that we experience this universal pain of lack, scarcity, the mindset of scarcity that you have described in the book.
Yeah.
And we have this challenge of being a separate identity, I think it
Yes.
is, as Hamid talks about.
Yeah.
And then how do we look to, we've all got to go down this path
Yes.
of letting go of everything that feels so real to us,
Right.
and move to this spiritual
Yes.
arena that we have all different ideas of what that means as well, depending on our upbringing.
Yes.
And so most people don't, make that journey. It's too attractive to stay in the physical realm, the comfort. We're looking for comfort, but not necessarily getting any contentment.
Right.
And so what is the draw to let that be, or let it go, or to feel the pain that we must experience around the emptiness, around the longing, the lack? Because we all experience, that's what you're saying, we're all experiencing some degree of lack in our disconnect from being, or our true nature. We're all experiencing this egoic identity that's predestined for pain. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, but this is a really big question that you're asking, actually. So, to me, it's like, what wakes you up to want to recognize that we are on a planet Earth
exactly.
mystery
Why go through the?
Why go
this?
through? And in my experience, if you're having a really nice life and you had a really nice upbringing, you might not be stirred into the spiritual path.
Yeah.
But if you've run into something that happened in your life, it can start to wake you up. You know, the loss of a parent at a young age, loss of a sibling, getting sick, losing your job and going through some really dire times, you know, something. Or it could just be that you were just kind of born with like a thirst to know. But any one of those things can wake you up to, okay, I want to know more about how reality works. I want to know who I am. So you start to have a flame for the truth of reality. So that is a whole spiritual story. For me, where money comes into it is that money is embedded in absolutely everything we do in the world. So you can't have a spiritual life, a spiritual practice, without also looking at your money. Right? So it's kind of twofold, you know. You can't, because money issues are intricately tied to being in the world now. It's how it has. So looking at these money issues is two things. First of all, it will wake you up to other aspects about yourself, right? And it will also wake you up to how those other aspects of yourself are involving your money. So it's to me, a very logical and fruitful avenue of inquiry. So that's my more interest. Is I don't want to make a bunch of successful money people. That wasn't the point. It was using money as part of your spiritual journey. But you will also get better at money in the process.
Right. I've heard one spiritual teacher describe it as the currency of the heavens is love and the currency of the earth is money.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that forward, because we did say at the time, this isn't about money per se. This is your journey of inquiry into how you are transacting on this planet, how you are living your true value, creation, how you are showing up in the world. So, you know, we often do put that onto the external measure, or how we monitor or measure our progress. In some ways, money gives us a firm something to grab onto, whereas the promise of a spiritual journey never seems to have any guarantees, does it? What's your experience with that?
Well, no, we have to be in not knowing.
Yeah.
And trusting. And those are some of the things we talk about in the inquiry model. We have to allow things to unfold and inquire and trust into what's unfolding in order for that. We are not in control. If you think you're in control, you're...
Which is such, that's a really hard sell.
That's a really hard sell.
Like, if we were looking, to talk about abundance, because that's what we really wanted to come with this course as around abundance. How do you start to navigate that intricate journey and hopefully be able to stay in a state of knowing, presence, trust, as you talk about, of this collective culture where we are trying to get some degree of safety and comfort.
That's why I think it's more important than it ever has been, exactly for that point. Because if we are believing in that separation, if we are believing in money as a source of our well-beingness, if we are in those beliefs, then the chaos that's happening in the world right now is going to entrench us more into those beliefs, and we will be miserable, and we will be, in war with ourselves, inner and outer. So it's even more important to start to get free from these beliefs, so we can start to live in more beingness, more love, more trust. So, there is the spiritual principle of, whatever, we're co-creators. We are whatever we believe, what we say, the words, both Einstein has said that we create our reality from our words. So did Jesus, What, I can't remember the exact quote.
Well, I don't have his quote to hand now, but it's...
but
I'm sure he did. It would be a good thing for him to say.
Yeah,
and it hasn't changed in thousands of years.
It hasn't changed in thousands of years. So it's about getting free and not identifying with this ego structure, with this belief in lack, with this survival, so that we can stay in a higher state of consciousness. And then if the whole world was doing that, imagine if everybody was doing that, then the world would be made up of love and freedom and, the beingness aspects. So it's become more essential. When I first wrote this book, when I first wrote it, or I was first thinking about this, I wasn't knowing that how desperate things have become, was going to happen. And now I see it and realize it's even more important for us to really challenge these belief systems and move into beingness and move into this consciousness. And like you made this point about, in the spiritual world, love, compensation is love. And on planet Earth, it's money. But we need to bring these together. And that's where abundance come in, because the law of compensation is there is abundance. It is part of reality. It's part of true nature. And there is abundance in the universe, but it will not come through when there is a belief in lack and limitation. So we have to address that lack and limitation. I'm running out of time here. The world is this mess. You're telling me that I can't avoid looking at my money issues. And now, but at the same time, I don't want to be part of this belief system that is running and making people in chaos and making things. So what is there to do? And what there is to do is you can start playing with the law of compensation, which is, in order to receive, I have to give. So you can start being generous. You can start with, just think about more tips to people who are around you, because it's receiving. You don't receive until you give. That is one of the law of compensation. It's a circular system, and we've been in this lack. We've just been trying to get, and we're not in an open-hearted give. So where's the love? So it's a circulation of love and receiving. So you can start to practice. You can start to practice with generosity and feeling your heart, and it doesn't have to be, if you don't have a lot of money, it can be small things. I know today when I went and bought my coffee, I usually, on our way to come here and do this, I gave them a $10 bill, and it was, $4.50, and I got back a $5 bill and 50 cents, and I thought, so I'm going to give them a 50-cent tip? All these people who are making minimum wage, I'm going to give them the 50 cents? No, gave them the $5.
You brought a smile to his face, I'm sure.
Brought a smile to their face, because then they told each other.
Oh, nice.
Right? So it ended up being a transaction of love rather than a transaction of lack, or a transaction of holding on.
So the energy that carried then, yeah.
The energy that carries, opens up the heart, opens up the love. So there is no separation, in a way, between being here on planet Earth and being a spiritual being. We just haven't known where to intersect those. So that's what my book was addressing, like how you can start with this small little contracted place and move towards more and more freedom from that. And now we're just talking about how to actually move into the law of abundance that's operating, that is actual part of reality.
Yeah. And it's almost like we must go through this journey.
You have to go through this journey.
So that's why the program.
That's why the program
was developed. And,
yes.
And I hope it has helped people. I know it certainly has supported me in my own journey. Well, on to abundance, if I may, because I think the journey that we started when we put the program together was really to get us to a point of at least awareness.
Yes.
Now you use the term awareness and consciousness sort of interchangeably, and so at least if we're aware, be it in this present moment, as to what am I seeing, what am I feeling, what am I understanding, then we what you're suggesting is in the presence of that, we will be able to make a better decision,
A better decision.
a
They
more
will show
informed
up
choice.
from our increased consciousness, from our increased awareness. We will make different choices.
Right. Different
Like,
choices. Yeah.
Different choices. Like, I'll just give you one example. Say, for example, investing. Instead of investing in the stock that's going to go up the most, it doesn't. Even if they're only paying people hardly, not even minimum wage, no health benefits. It leaves toxins on the planet. Instead of doing that, you start to think, no, I'm going to invest in a company that looks at people, profit, and planet. I want to support a company that takes into account ecology and not just and people. Are people being supported? And not just what's going to get me the most money.
Right. Because I know as an accountant, I'm guilty of that.
Right.
How do I get the best returns? And I'm comparing different funds and
Right.
going, well, they're doing well, and I'm going to move on to that. And so, have we just become dumbed down to everything, or so you're suggesting that we need to be really conscious, literally, right through to the impact.
We do.
Of
We have
everything in our life.
The more that we understand and recognize our conditioning and get freer from it, the more conscious we will be, and we will bring that into our money, but we also will bring that consciousness into our life. And that's, for me, they're not separate. For me, the money journey and the spiritual journey are not separate. I hope at some point they are. I'm hoping at some point that everybody in the planet gets enough support. Like, money was supposed to be a support for people.
Or
And
facilitate.
To facilitate
exchange,
exchange so that each person could bring their uniqueness into the world. But it isn't now. It's been all grabbed by less than 1%, like 0.1% of the people now at this point have 99% of the money. So there is no flow. It's like blood. Money has become like the blood of the planet,
right.
in a way. And what happens in a body when the blood doesn't flow, is stagnant? What happens? Death.
Death, yeah.
So what's happening to the planet, to people, to people's uniqueness? They don't have enough money to have an expression. So that's what money was intended to be. So that's part of it is, let's bring money back to what it was intended to be, a support for each person.
Right.
To be who they are in the world. That was the original intention.
Right.
It's been co-opted by those who think more is better.
So it's like that Christmas carol, the story of Scrooge, where he talks about mankind is our business, not just money.
Right.
Mankind is our business.
I think mankind should be everybody's business.
Right. Right.
Not just money.
And so when you think of abundance, then I was reflecting on the way here. What does abundance actually mean? Because I believe I have an abundant life.
Yes.
And but when I measure that, I don't necessarily equate that with financial abundance, even though lots of money comes and goes. You talk about money, and we talked about this in the program, as a currency.
Yes, it's a currency.
And so it's a movement.
Well, you get less attached to money. You get more attached to the flow of life through you, and you trust that when I am love, and I have love moving through me, and what I create in the world is love and supportive for people, I trust that there will be abundance, because you're not living from that lack and that holding on and that tightness.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to say, at the beginning. Like, you were being an accountant because you wanted more. That was never my motivation. I somehow always trusted that there would be enough money. I didn't think about it. I wasn't motivated.
So my experiences as a child, young person, did train me more in the lack.
Yeah.
I saw what we didn't have.
Yeah.
It was a very different upbringing.
Yeah.
And so it was around, that's where I energetically question at times when I feel tight inside, or I feel abundant.
Right.
And one day I can go from one extreme to the next.
Right.
And, it drives my wife mad at times, where sometimes I'm like plentiful and it's wonderful, and then I am like
Right.
shut down the hatches, and
And that's a good time to inquire.
that's good. and she has reflected that to me.
Yes.
And sometimes not
Yes.
in the best way, but it's so I'm aware of that training.
My father was very much passionate about what he wanted to do in the world, and he wasn't motivated by money.
Right.
So
As a doctor, he was
just, that's what he was motivated by, and what he wanted to do in the world. And I think that we don't recognize how much those early conditionings impact our relationship to money. Even before we were dealing with money, it was part of the atmosphere of the house.
Absolutely.
In our families. So that's one of the things we talk about in our journey, is looking at your family conditioning.
Yeah. And other areas of abundance you might experience? Well, I'm thinking of creativity, for instance.
Well, that's really what we're here to be, our unique expression of who we are. So it's a co-creativity.
Yes.
It's a co-creativity between our uniqueness and the creative power of the universe, of being. So when we put those two together, we can be unstoppable. When we're in fear and lack about not having enough money, that's not going to happen.
Of course.
So we're missing out on our potential.
Yeah, that really is where the rubber hits the road, isn't
That's
it?
where the rubber hits the road.
So what would you say to somebody out there that's in the midst of a financial crisis right now, or they're feeling that nothing's rolling their way, and they're, and it might be financial, it might be socially, it might be in their family, it might be in many aspects of...
Well, they need to feel. They need to feel all the human feelings. They need to recognize their belief systems. They need to start to inquire inward rather than looking outward. So the spiritual journey is, like we were talking about the cross, there's the depth, there's the spiritual part. So it's like they need to start to wake up that they are a spiritual being. And they say, well, where do I start? I would recommend they buy my book.
Yes. Even if they have to go to the library and get it if they can't afford it right now. But it's something that it's all coded.
It's all coded.
Right.
It's coded. Yeah. There is freedom. There is freedom to be had in this journey.
Money has a certain immediacy to it.
Yes.
Has an urgency to it.
Yes.
It's very much in your face.
It's in your face. So that's a perfect thing in your face to inquire into. It's right there.
So for our animal instinct, it is triggering everything within our biology.
It does.
To deal with, to fix, to push away, to get a hold on or get a grip on, and everything else that we've talked about in the sense of abundance or in our life almost is secondary when you're dealing with the immediacy of a threat.
It can feel like that.
It can feel
That's
like
what
that.
it feels like.
It does.
That's
absolutely.
what it feels like.
And it's down.
And that's
to
what's so compelling.
Mm.
So we need to recognize that that's not true. We aren't about to get eaten right now.
Yes.
And inquire more deeply into what's going on.
Yes, and is it okay now?
And is it okay now?
And I've witnessed this in myself in moving around the world and moving in different countries, where there is the immediacy and almost the fear comes up.
Yes.
And it's like, let it go, let it go. And is it okay now?
And that's one of the barriers that I talk about, is the instincts, the animal instincts, and how they become barriers to freedom for money to flow in our lives.
Yes, yes. So that's a daily practice.
That's a daily practice.
And I guess what the purpose of our program was to help people navigate that.
Yes.
But it's an ongoing journey. It's
to help navigate all these different kinds of issues for the opening of who they are in the world.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.